This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, and then post-call, Bapi, I can send you the slides in case you need to distribute it. That's also fine. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Again, thanks, Bapi, and the OCP ODSA team for giving us a chance to introduce ourselves, right? So I'll talk a bit about Semify. So it's going to be fairly brief. If there's any interest to have further discussions, I'll leave my email in the presentation anyway. My email is quite simple, kelvin.low@semify.com, right? So let me start. So essentially, Semify, we have a very simple objective, right? We see the world needing more custom silicon, and we want to enable it, right? Faster, cheaper, and the most risk-efficient way. A relatively young company. I'll talk a bit about the history, but we are about 200 plus people strong right now. Comprehensive capability, end-to-end, ASIC from spec handoff to all the way to supply chain management, right? Our projects are mostly at the FinFET node right now. We have projects at 14 nanometer, 8 nanometer, 5 nanometer, covering a couple of applications, focusing a lot on the data center accelerator side, and this is where we see chiplet being very interesting. We also have business in industrial applications as well as going into also automotive space. We work with Samsung Foundry as a foundry partner. I'll talk a bit more about this, and this is also another area where myself and Bapi felt that we could proliferate, right, some of these, especially the BAO IP, into more technologies. Bapi, can you hear me fine and everything? Just want to be sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so as I mentioned, pretty young company. I get these questions about 100% of the time, right? Are you linked to Sci-Fi in any way? Short answer, we actually started off as Sci-Fi Korea. Sci-Fi, as many of you know, develops and markets RISC-V IP. So we were a reseller for Sci-Fi in Korea. It was also back then we decided to expand the business beyond just selling IP. So we went into design services and ASIC. 2 rounds of funding so far, a total of about 30 million now. We're working on Series B. It's looking good. We should be completing Series B towards the end of this year. While we had initial funding, we already acquired actually 2 companies, right? I mean, small acquisition to beef up our design services resources and capability. And then we also are identified in Korea as I would say a unicorn startup. And then I am the GM of Semify US. So I was working also to establish the entity and operationalize the company here. So we were fully set up since April. While we were also working with Sci-Fi closely initially to develop our platforms using the RISC-V cores, in the ASIC world, you probably will agree that we will have to service ARM-based companies too, right? So we actually announced a partnership with ARM. We have a broad access to their CPU, GPU, NPU, and system IPs as well. It happened last May. Okay, so as I mentioned just now, within Semify, we want to basically service and enable custom silicon to everyone and anyone. Simple vision, we want to be the new global hub of custom silicon. We have what we call a SoC platform. I'll talk about that. Access to different IPs, design services, end-to-end ASIC, and we are working with one of the lead foundry in the world. We are looking to service startups, fabless, set companies, cloud service provider, OEMs, and so on. So mission building, like I say, faster, lower costs of ownership, and then risk averse, efficient SoC design platform. Spending a few seconds here. This is our core leadership team. Company is led by a gentleman called Brandon Cho. If the team is interested, I'll pass on a link to Bapi as well. We are also part of GSA. Earlier this year, we did a simple, we were part of the GSA Entrepreneur Conference, right? So we did a simple elevator pitch. Brandon did the presentation there. We also have a couple of executives. A number of them are either ex-EDA companies or ex-Samsung, right? Steve Park is a very experienced veteran in Samsung. He actually led, he was the EVP for System LSI division. He actually led the custom SoC division. plus also the external design teams. So he's extremely, I would say, instrumental in also kicking off business in Semify. All right, so let me go on to the next page. So 3 areas of focus for the company. I talked about IP business briefly just now. This is where we are a reseller for Sci-Fi in Korea. And then the other 2 core business for us is really platform SoC and ASIC design services, right? So I'll go through all the first 2 in more detail in the subsequent slides. Again, platform SoC is a vehicle that we develop also to help our ASIC business, right? We see this as a differentiation. We felt that building domain-specific platforms does help a number of companies, especially companies who do not have any design teams in place. And this actually appeals a lot to the set companies, cloud guys, and even the startups. ASIC, essentially, well, pretty typical ASIC business end-to-end. We are also, I would say, advocating a new handoff model. I'll talk about that. That has some relationship with chiplets. And then in IP business, aside from working with Sci-Fi, we are also putting together a, I would say, a pool of IPs as part of a program called Design Share. Some of you may have heard that. So we are extending Design Share. The key goal for Design Share is to allow lower cost of prototyping. So we actually have a, I would say, interesting business arrangement with a long list of IP companies now, where we are able to get access to the IPs at a lower cost, translating that to customers, right? Especially at the prototyping phase. Yeah. So let me go to platform SoC. It has many things, but what it is really is a domain-specific platform architecture. We have developed 2 platforms now. I will talk about one of them. And part of the platform is actually we are using, I'll say, a group of production-proven IPs, right? I'm listing a couple of IP titles here. These IPs are either soft IPs or hard IPs that are targeted towards Samsung Foundry. And then the platform allows, again, access to, I would say, custom SoC, right? With a more rapid turnaround time and lower cost. If I skip to the next slide, the benefits are clear. We did quite a bit of analysis, right? And obviously the range could be big, but we see the platform allowing up to 50% cost saving, right? Then the average, a lot of the cost reduction comes from lower design NRE. We are probably the largest design service partner for Samsung now, so we get, I would say, a good business relationship there. So fabrication, IP licensing costs are also in favor. Time to market wise, we see about 50% shortened time to the market, and these numbers could actually go even higher depending on the type of customers we are referencing. Reduce engineering risk, not only using individual, I would say, silicon verified or production proven IPs, but really what the customer will be getting as part of the platform SoC is a integrated solution, right? So including, making sure that the design methodologies used in the creation of the SoC is all validated. Yeah. Beyond silicon out, we also do packaging tests, driver bring up, software bring up. We do have a software team as well. And for many, I think what's also appealing in terms of the traditional ASIC model is the simplicity of the engagement, right? You just need to deal with Semify as a one entity, single point of contact, right? Where we then enable whether it's business discussion, legal discussions, getting multiple NDA sign up. Some companies hate to do that, right? So we can deal with all of that. For the customer, focus on your idea, focus on your innovation. Okay, go to the next slide. So this is one.
Quick question, if you don't mind. Are you working only with Samsung, or you could work with TSMC as well?
Great question, right? Since we just started the company, as you can imagine, right, some of these projects takes a lot of resources. So we are currently working with Samsung first as the single foundry. We do not have exclusivity, if that's the follow-up question. So we are open to working with additional foundries once we expand our business. So for now, just Samsung foundry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So first platform is focusing on data center accelerator. This is a simplistic block diagram. So you can see it's pretty much a full SoC here, right? It has a quad-core RISC-V CPU complex here, a 16 channel. Sorry, it's a 16 channel PCI Gen 4. 4-lane LPDDR4. We actually allocated a space as well based on all the interactions we had with customers earlier on. The common request was, hey, I'd like to drop in my IP, whether it's a deep learning accelerator IP, a neural processor, NPU. So we allowed that. And then system IPs and peripherals, right? Target markets are shown on the right. Good news is a couple of weeks back, we got our silicon back from Samsung. Everything looks good. We actually are compiling the results now. We have a very clean eye diagram even for PCI Gen 4. So that was very, I would say, very exciting for the team, right? To have first silicon back and working. The first silicon did also include customer implementation. The lead customer has actually provided a neural engine or neural processor. It was operating at speed at 2 gigahertz. So again, team is super excited. We have a second platform. I'll talk about it briefly. Oh, I didn't mention this platform is developed on Samsung 14 nanometer FinFET. And I'll talk about the second platform on a later slide. Next slide, if I can go. Okay, so ASIC wise, one-stop shop. I think many of you are very familiar with ASIC business. So we do various handoff model. But as I mentioned, it's end-to-end, right? So I'd like to make sure I emphasize that a number of companies may not offer a full end-to-end solution. So when I say end-to-end, it's not handling just the design, fab. We also have software bring up, and very importantly, supply chain management to handle the product lifecycle. So handoff models, very, very typical. Spec handoff, RTL handoff, netlist handoff. We have projects mostly as spec handoff, which is pretty ideal for us because that's where we see, I would say, our value. And then we are advocating something called ideal handoff or ideal to silicon, right? So this is just beyond spec. We actually now talk to customers about their overall system architecture. And we have started some dialogue with a couple of these companies who are trying to disrupt the industry, right? And this is where the chiplet discussion actually surfaced, mostly in the accelerator portion, right, of the system. So that's something we'd like to push more, which is idea handoff. Okay, so I talk very briefly about who we are and what we have done and what we will be doing. So the second platform you see on the bottom right here is targeted towards AIoT, right? Originally, we were contemplating to use a more mature technology like 28, 22 nanometer. But after surveying the customers, especially including their production timeline ramp, we decided to go towards also FinFET, right? For AIoT, it's a lot more cost sensitive, so we actually cut down the number of CPUs from 4 to 2. Included we actually then removed PCI Gen 4. We still retain LPDDR4. We actually also integrated more multimedia IPs and other connectivity IPs. We actually have also a MPU included as part of the platform. So target applications there, smart edge, robotics. That's an area that we see good interest, robotics, and also some industrial application. Okay, I will spend maybe, I created one slide to just talk about our views of chiplet. Some calls it dilets. I think this is just up to definition and discussion. And as part of chiplet dilets, the die-to-die IP, right? We see heterogeneous integration technology hit as And additional, I see it personally as a necessary differentiation, right, for future custom silicon. So to do this, there's many success stories, but most of the success stories are based on proprietary implementation, right, of chiplet and 3D IC. So standardization is definitely crucial to accelerate and to broaden the adoption. You talked to Bapi, I don't know now, maybe about 2 months ago. That's where I was introduced to ODSA. I was reading up the website, very well documented, and I like the fact that it's open, right? So I really again thank ODSA's push for more open and standardizing the key solution pieces to enable this chiplet solution, right? In this case, on the SemiFi side, we are putting more effort to understand the BAO die-to-die IP implementation versus, let's say, other competing die-to-die. We're looking at BAO as probably the preferred option right now. On the SemiFi side, again, we will enable the chiplet era, right? A lot of the plans are still being worked on, so not ready to be shared today. But I think one exciting part is I see that the test chip activity is in flight for N5 and N12, if my memory serves me right, at TSMC. So we hope that our effort can also broaden the overall push for an open standard with more suppliers, right? In this case, Samsung Foundry Silicon. So looking forward to partner with equally motivated or ecosystem companies. So that's my short introduction. I will leave my email behind, as I mentioned just now. So just simple email kelvin.low@semifi.com. Yeah. Okay, over to you, Papi. And I'll take questions too. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Kelvin. Any questions? So you said you had a PCIe interface, a PCIe Gen 5. Was that?
PCIe Gen 4.
Gen 4.
All our IPs, yeah, maybe I should stress one point. All our IPs today are basically sourced from our partners.
Okay.
We have not yet developed any IPs ourselves. That is in flight. Yeah. So we are planning to develop or to maybe inorganically have that capability, right? So maybe about 6 months later, I could give another update. I'm pretty confident I will have an update about 6 months later.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So my main motivation, or one big motivation for having Kelvin speak to us, was the idea that they could broaden the availability of BOW in additional foundries. And that's something we're sort of going back and forth on. That this is, given our interest in heterogeneous integration, at some point it'd be great to have a test chip on a different foundry that talks to the test chips in flight.
Yeah. And thanks again, I mean, Papi, and having the exposure to this ODSA team, right? We have started some dialogue as well with some of the companies that's attending the call today. So I think it's looking good. We're driving it a little bit harder. We're also working with Samsung Foundry closely to ensure that they understand the overall landscape on chiplet and BAO, right? They too are motivated. I think we just need that spark to set things off. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, any questions for Kelvin?
Okay, I'm going to end my sharing again. Feel to reach out to me. Yeah.
Okay.
How do I ended sharing, right? Yeah, I think I did.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Okay, then let me just check. Thanks, Kelvin.
Sure. Thank you.
I might have a fairly. Oh, right. Okay, is JP on? JP, you on? No. Quinn's on. Okay. Anybody else from our usual gang? Okay. So Quinn, if you please speak up when we're sort of gone back and forth on the on our storage acceleration workshop. We are going to hold the workshop in 4 weeks exactly. We'll send out a registration page. The idea is to we've decided to split into two sections. Day one will be on Friday the 26th, and we'll have speakers from Quinn. Do you remember? I don't want to pull it up right now because I'll wander all over my. You remember who we have lined up so far? We've got a bunch of storage people, and unfortunately, I don't remember. Oh, Ravi, you're on. Okay, between you and Ravi, if you could please tell me. Oh, Quinn, go ahead.
No, I'll let Ravi because I'm commuting. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, Ravi, can you hear me? You're on mute if you're speaking. Oh, Young is here too. All right. I'm like, okay, Young or Ravi. If you guys could please speak up on who we have going.
I'm not sure who we have confirmed.
Okay. Hang on. Let me stop sharing and let me dig up the sheet then. Give me 1 second. JP is then in that case. Give me 1 second. It's going to take me. Sorry, I apologize. I was hoping one of us would have it, but we don't. So give me a minute while I get myself organized. Yeah, all right, found it. Okay. So we've got Young has lined up somebody from Samsung on smart SSDs. Western Digital will talk about eBPF acceleration. And then we've got some sense, a couple of speakers from universities on data accelerators for storage likely from Santa Cruz. And I think we'll have one of these people sort of lined up. Quinn, is that Doug Berger from Microsoft? We're still in flight with them, right? Quinn?
Yeah, we're still waiting for confirmation.
Okay. But roughly this is it. And our idea is that this will lead to hopefully rounding up some additional participants in the POC, and that we can get a demo together for the global summit in November. So we have a plan to sort of showcase the POC at one of the pavilions, and hopefully this leads to a demo for the POC as well. That's the plan. So so the idea is to have a follow on phase 2 in about 3 to 4 weeks after the 26th. We'll send out a registration page. Please feel free to share it with anyone you know. If you think there'll be a good potential fit for the POC, forward this to your colleagues. But that's roughly the plan right now. Quinn, Ravi, or Young, if you'd like to say anything else, now would be an awfully good time. Okay. Let's see. That's a storage workshop. That's all I had for today. I'm probably going to give you all a half an hour back of your life. So let me do a quick roundup of opens. Anybody want to say anything? Let me go from the bottom. Yang or Yen, anything on your mind?
No, nothing on my mind right now.
All right. Tawfiq, Thomas?
None on my side, Bobby. I'm presenting in 2 weeks, though, right?
Right, yeah. Suresh, Swami?
No, nothing, Bob. Thanks.
Shahab, Shri Ganesh?
Nothing, thanks.
No, thank you, Bob.
Sandeep, Scott?
Nothing here.
Ravi, Reza?
No, thank you, Bobby.
Paul, Quinn?
Nope.
Lay, Michael?
Nothing from my side. Thank you.
Okay, Kelvin?
I'm good.
Yeah, good as well. Thank you, Bobby.
Okay. Dave, Elko?
Nothing for me. Just wish everyone a good weekend.
All right.
Nothing from either. Happy
All
Friday.
right. Anu, Carrie?
Nothing here, Buffy.
Nothing for me.
So the bow sprint, we had a pretty good bow sprint. I haven't got myself organized. DJ and I will put the slides up, and DJ took a whole bunch of notes. We will put all of them together and mail them out along with this week's minutes. Well, in that case, I'm in the happy position of giving everybody back a half hour of their weekend, or excuse me, of their Friday. Enjoy your weekend.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.